So the name of today's video, trust me, they're not oversharing because they can feel your caring nature. I couldn't think of another title to fit this video. They are not oversharing because they can feel your caring nature. 9 times out of 10 they're taking advantage. That's the name of the video. So with my experience with having friendships, especially at the early stages of the friendship, where it was based on them oversharing, offloading all their traumas or reasonings as to why life just isn't good for them, and that's how the foundation built. Because I had this sympathy for them, you feel bad, you think, oh my gosh, this person has been through so much, so now I have to be their friend, now I have to show them a way. And you in your head, you think, no, it's because they can tell I am a caring person, I'm a positive person, I can help impact their life, which sometimes is true. But yeah, before I get too ahead of myself, those friendships have always ended badly. They have always ended in disruption, anger, upset and resentment. I think it's fair to say that I have had my fair shares of encountering people like this, or being in friendships or even relationships where it was solely based on the trauma bonding or trauma dumping in the early stages of the friendship or relationship or situationship. When I used to encounter people that would open up to me and start oversharing, I always used to think it's because they can tell that I'm a good, caring person. And that used to make me feel good. I think for people like me, we need to stand up and be honest. There's no denying that you get a sense of happiness and pride, and you feel good about yourself when people do tend to overshare with you and tell you their life story and start opening up, because you know within yourself, I'm a caring person, I'm an understanding person, because I'm a positive light, I can help this person, this is a blessing that they're opening up to me. And for the longest time I was dying on that hill. The reason why these people do this is because they can sense that I'm a cool person. And don't get me wrong, of course people can tell you certain things or feel comfortable around you for that reason, but guys, there's levels. I'm talking specifically when a foundation of a friendship or relationship is based off that, where the attachment grows based on the oversharing and what they've told you and how they've made you feel. But yeah, I used to think God obviously made me to be a lover, to be a carer. That's my nature. This is why I'm attracting these people. So because I thought that was the reason, it made me think that I have to endure these emotions. I have to take in these overwhelming thoughts and information. I have to take them in because God made me this way. So clearly I'm strong enough to carry these burdens. Clearly I'm that person to take in this information and help these people heal. But these trauma dumpers, and not to call them names, but I'm just describing the emotion, these people that trauma dump and cause havoc to your life do this not with genuine intention. It's basically a trap. They think by them opening up to you, by them telling you what they've been through, what they've experienced, how they've been hurt, how they're dealing with trauma, they see it as a way to grab you and hold on to you. They see it as a way to be like, now I've told you this information, you're obliged to stay in this friendship, you're obliged to stay in this relationship, you need to help me heal, you need to be my person. It's literally them thinking, now I've told you this, you have to stay. I've told you why I'm like this, so you have to endure the reasons why I behave the way I behave, the reason why I act the way that I act, and the reason why I am not willing to do the work, and you have to put up with my madnesses. You have to put up with my trauma. You have to put up with the effects of me not healing. It's literally a thing where they think because they've opened their heart to you, because they've poured out to you, that you're obliged to tolerate everything that comes with their trauma, everything that comes with their behavior. And I promise you that's not the case. It's manipulation at its finest. So going back to my experiences with these type of people, I would realize whenever it would be a bit too much for me. Or whenever an argument would start, or they would do something to hurt me, or I would say something to offend them, you automatically turn into the bad guy. You turn into the bad guy because you now make them uncomfortable. You somewhat make them have to hold accountability or take accountability for their actions. And that's what I used to think. It's funny when something goes down. It's funny when I probably say something, because I'm human, we're not perfect. That's another thing as well. In their mind, they think that you're supposed to be this perfect human being that can't make mistakes because they're the messed up one in the relationship, they're the messed up ones in the friendship. And it's like, no, you are also a human too. That's one thing I wish I had more self-awareness of, that it is okay for me to mess up. It is okay for me to have a bad day. It is okay for me to also make mistakes, because I am also a human. I am not this saving grace. I am not this person that just came down from heaven to take away all your problems and for me to be perfect for you. It's very scary when someone puts you on a God pedestal, because already it puts that pressure on you. It puts the pressure of you to constantly make them happy. It puts the pressure of you to be their reason, to be perfect, to be the person that they're not having to take accountability, that you're not going to hurt them, that you're never going to say something that they don't want to hear. And that's the thing. I used to think they want to do better by telling me this, not realizing that they actually want me to enable their bad behavior. Guys, that is a problem. That is something you genuinely need to protect yourself over. People that do this trauma dumping at a short space of time make the relationship or friendship 10 times more intense than what it needs to be, especially in the early stages. Often they're not looking for healing, they're generally just looking for someone to enable their bad behavior. And you know what? You don't want to think that someone's taking your kindness for weakness. And I think that's probably why, even for me, why I tolerated it for so long. I didn't want to believe that they were taking my kindness or my caring nature for a weakness. I genuinely wanted to believe that they felt comfortable enough to tell me these things, that they wanted to do better, that I was their safe place. You never want to know within yourself that they're violating you, but the truth of the matter is they are violating you, they are taking advantage of you, and they are taking your kindness and your caring nature for a weakness. They want to abuse that and use that because they think that they can have their way. It's almost like they can control you because they think that you are that weak. They think that because you care and you love so much, you're never going to challenge them. You're never going to challenge their behavior. You're never going to go against their grain. But I think all my caring people can relate. There's only so much that we can tolerate this. There's only so much that you can tolerate someone not changing or behaving badly or being toxic. And it's funny, whenever I would flip, whenever I would actually be like, you know what, I'm starting to get pissed off, is when you would turn into the bad guy. It's like you rattle their reality, you shake their little deluded dream that actually this person does have a backbone, actually this person does have a limit, actually this person does have buttons, and if I keep pushing them you're gonna get the wrong one. This is a common thing that I clocked. When you finally stick up for yourself, when you finally put your foot down, you are automatically the bad guy. But you know what though, I need to be real about, you do set yourself up for that, because you've painted this narrative for that person that they can't do no wrong. You've painted this narrative for that person, and listen, you probably did it without knowing, so don't get it twisted. A lot of us do these things without even knowing what we're doing, but what we're doing is because we've enabled their behavior so much, when you do switch, in a way you kind of are in the wrong because you've allowed them to be that comfortable. And please don't take this the wrong way, because at the end of the day you did it without knowing. Like, I had to have an honest conversation with myself. I can enable bad behavior. I allow these people to get so comfortable to the point where when I finally wake up and smell the roses, it rattles their world and I become their bad guy. And you know what? You can't help that. And this is another thing I had to learn as well. You have to become, as I said in the previous video, you have to become comfortable with being the bad guy. You have to, because in the grand scheme of things, you're not. In the grand scheme of things, you have every right to walk away, stand up for yourself, and not have to tolerate toxic behavior. But in their world, you are that bad guy. In their world, you are that person that ruins their reality because you finally took a stand. But this is what we need to speak about more, guys. I promise you, you allowing behaviors to continue, or you enabling without knowing, you're creating the monster. You're helping to create this monster. You're helping to encourage this person's bad behavior. So technically, you are the bad guy in their worlds. In the grand scheme of things, you're absolutely not. I want to make that very clear. But it's a thing where when you do allow something to go on for so long, although you 100% have the right to step back and be like, no, I don't want this no more, you do have to be comfortable and accept the fact that you're going to be their bad guy. You can only hope and pray for them that they realize that what they're doing is wrong, and that they find themselves in a constant situation where they can't maintain friendships. And that's another thing about these people. Even though you do become the bad guy, they have a list of bad guys. You're not the first bad guy. You're not the first person to stand up for yourself and walk away from a toxic situation. So whilst they want to make you feel bad and you get upset when they coin you to be this horrible person because you ruined their reality, or because they opened up their heart to you and now you're ruining it, they're always going to have bad guys. They're going to be in a vicious cycle. But you don't want to be in a vicious cycle with a constantly allowing these behaviors. And this is why I'm making this video. So I remember the first time I actually had to cut the cord with a person that was just toxic in my life. I feel like it's so significant to me because I really think that I was the catalyst. I think I was the person to make them realize that not everyone is going to tolerate your bad behavior. I remember it being so hard for me to do that. I said earlier that they get stuck in a cycle, right, because not everybody's going to tolerate their behavior, but sometimes they have their own little weird entourage that enables them, that doesn't correct their actions, and those people unfortunately are comfortable with taking abuse and tolerating toxic behavior. But when they have that group of people that have allowed this behavior for so long, when you finally take a stand, it's like you really shake up their world. And I think I had to be that person for that particular person's life. There is a consequence for your action. I have to be the person to make you realize that not everyone's going to tolerate your bad behavior. And it's funny because it was so hard, because you think to yourself, I don't want to inconvenience this person. But within that moment, not only are you taking a stand for yourself and finally setting healthy standards, you're also a little bit, it's up to them whether they take it as a lesson or not, but you're making them realize there is consequences to your actions. Sometimes you need to be the first person in their life to say no. The first person in their life to make them realize some people aren't going to tolerate my behavior. That was the first person, sometimes being comfortable with being their first bad guy. But another thing I had to really examine within myself, I have to stop seeing people that overly share information to me, especially in the early stages of speaking to them, as a positive thing. If anything, it's a red flag. That's just the truth. When someone overly shares the first time you're meeting them, or a few weeks or even a few months into meeting this person, like 2 or 3 months, and they're telling you their whole life story in an intensive way with so much information, it's a red flag. Overly oversharing to someone that you barely know is a red flag. Instead of seeing it as, oh my gosh, they feel so comfortable to me, no, you need to turn the other way. It's not healthy, because think about it. Would you really tell all your business to someone that you barely know? Really? Even when you get a good vibration from them, you still wouldn't be so quick to open up your heart like that. You just wouldn't, because genuine, real things take time. That's with life in general. Another thing, when people are telling you their traumas, their struggles, or why they ended up in this certain place, or why they may react in a certain way, because that's fine. There's people that are still unlearning. There's people that are still on their journey of becoming a better person, you know. But I will say, look out if they mention that they're actively doing things to overcome their trauma, if they're actively doing things to be better, if they're actively doing things to heal. In my experience, a lot of the time when people would trauma dump me, they would never tell me the actions they're taking to become better. No counseling, no church, no self-evaluation, and the biggest one, not taking accountability. Biggest one, not taking accountability. And it goes back to the whole enjoying being a victim, hence why you're the victim, so you're allowed to do all these things. These are things that you have to look out for. Like, with all these experiences, guys, at this point, if I'm not hearing you say this is what you're doing to become a better person, if you're not telling me that you've overcome this and you're not identified with that, and you know what though, guys, another thing, if I'm seeing you and all I know about you is your trauma, literally every time we talk or we're talking about you as a person, it's always a negative. Why is that? Why is that the only information that I know? And I'm sorry, you can say that because there's people that have been through hell and you find out what they've been through at the end. You wouldn't even tell that they've been through it. Want to know why? Because they're not identified by their pain. They're not identified by their trauma. Yes, it's something that happened to them. Yes, it's something that is a part of them because it happened to them. It was significant. However, they choose not to allow that to be their story. They don't choose to make that their identity. That's the difference. There's a lot of people that are comfortable with making their traumas or things that they've been through their number one identity. Literally, that's all you know about that person when you speak to them. I'm telling you, it's a red flag because everybody has got a story. Everybody has gone through something. Yes, in different stages and in different ways, but it doesn't take away from the fact that everybody has gone through something that has affected them or impacted them a lot. But are they identified by it? Are they defined by that pain? But with that being said, when you do find yourself having a conversation with someone that is making you feel uncomfortable, that you can see that they're doing this oversharing, overbearing tactic, it's okay to say that you feel uncomfortable or to want to back away from the conversation. Obviously there's ways in which doing it without being rude or without being dismissive, but it's actually okay to be like, you know what, I haven't been through this and maybe you should seek a bit more guidance from someone that has more knowledge in this because I'm not equipped to give you advice, unfortunately, or this is genuinely too heavy for me and maybe because I can't give you advice on this. Listen, people might say, oh, everyone needs a listening ear even if you don't understand. I agree with that to an extent, but there's no denying that you do know. I've dealt with these people too many times not to now spot when someone is about to start trauma dumping or overshare. It's all right to step back and pause when you think you're about to be in that situation. Is this conversation healthy? Is this person slightly taking advantage of my good nature? You have to stop and think in these things and reevaluate. Because honey, the Holy Spirit be telling you that gut feeling, that's the Holy Spirit telling you to cut. It's the Holy Spirit telling you, yeah, you're uncomfortable for a reason. Don't ignore it. We do ourselves a disservice when we ignore our intuition. Well, not even intuition, when we ignore the Holy Spirit within us telling us, you need to cut. This ain't it. You do yourself a disservice. You make yourself uncomfortable. And sometimes, I get it, you can be put in uncomfortable situations. But it's what you do after. Are you going to continue to be as chummy with that person? Or are you going to take the initiative to distance yourself? Again, you need to not care if that makes you look heartless or whatever the case may be, because again, they're always going to have their scenario in their head. You need to put yourself first. You need to put your well-being first and your mental health first, because I'm telling you, the more you deal with these people, it does become draining. I don't think that you should be in a friendship or relationship where you're constantly drained after a conversation. That was another thing. The deeper the friendship grew and the conversations became intense or their actions were just being crazy, I used to think to myself, why do I feel drained after speaking to this person? Why do I literally feel tired and drained after speaking to this person? Guys, that's not normal. Now and then, yes, there's conversations that's going to tire you out when you have to have really deep conversations, but honey, I expect that from my husband who's going through it, or a dear friend of mine that barely complains like that, and she generally cannot help the scenario that she's in. Those are the only exceptions. But if you're my friend and we're talking loads and I'm constantly feeling drained after I finish speaking to you, red flag. But if you are someone that finds themselves in situations like this, the first thing you need to come to peace with and understand is that when someone is overly trauma dumping and oversharing with you, it's not because of your good vibrations or you're a caring person or they can feel the spirit of God, especially when it's at the early stages. I'm telling you, they will take advantage. They will drain you. They will make you feel guilty, because really they don't actually care about your well-being. It's what they can benefit from you. Put yourself first. We need to normalize stopping and thinking after having a conversation with someone. Reevaluate the situation instead of acting on impulse. It's actually okay to reflect on your day, to reflect on the conversation. Was it edifying? What did I gain from this? Do I feel good after having this conversation? Was this conversation on good ground? Did it have a good foundation? Is this person genuine? Is this person comfortable in their victim mentality? I'm telling y'all, we're too old and we're too grown to tolerate these kind of behaviors, okay? We need to cut the cord from now. We were not built on this earth to tolerate this. I'm trying to live soft life. I'm trying to live simple life. I'm trying to be in contentment and in peace. And if you are not aligning with that, then baby, you've got to go.